Hello, Warren County Public Library. It is so nice to see you all this afternoon. My name is Conrad, and I'm going to be your host for today's program. We're so excited to see everyone here. If you're here, you can leave a comment and let me know that you're watching. We are going to have a lot of fun with our story today. And today's program is really special because it combines storytelling and science in a really unique and special way. And I'm so excited that I get to share that with all of you. So as my friends, you come on in, get yourself settled. We'll start in just 1 or 2 minutes. I'm going to be off to the races with our story because there's a lot to share with you this afternoon. Let's see who's watching. It's so nice. Hi there. So nice to see all of you. Oh my goodness. That is great. Oh, it's so nice to see everyone. Hello there. Hi. Oh, it's great to see everyone. This is awesome. And as more and more of you just come on in, leave me a comment, let me know you're watching. You are in the right place for our Science Teller program. Now, Garrett says hello. Nice to see you, Garrett. I'm glad you're watching and ready to have some fun. This is going to be so much fun. Now, my friends, as you know, your library has some amazing programs. There are all sorts of things. Things go on each and every week. And of course, if you want to stay up to date on all of the fun things happening with your library, you can visit warrenpl.org/summer. So that's Warren and then PL for public library.org and then /summer, because we have some amazing events scheduled for your summer reading program. Now, all right, my friends, Ian and Henry say hello. It's nice to see you both. Thank you for watching. My friends, welcome to our Science Teller show. Now, a Science Teller show combines science and storytelling in a very special way. And in today's show, we're going to meet two heroes, Henry and Beth. And they're going to go on a quest to save the entire kingdom from the Ice Sorceress. Now, we're going to meet another friend of mine. His name is Sciencetellers Rick, and he's going to show you some amazing science experiments and tell you a pretty cool story. Now, the best thing about our story is that I want to know what you are thinking. From time to time, we may stop and make a scientific guess together or a hypothesis. And I want you to leave your hypothesis in the comments when it's time. And at the end of our show, I'm actually going to teach you a special science experiment that you can do at home. All right, my friends, let's have fun with our Science Teller program presented by the Warren County Public Library. We're going to go over to my friend Sciencetellers Rick to kick things off. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Ricky, and I'm a science teller. A science teller is part scientist, part story teller. That's right. When you mix them together, you get a science teller. And that's someone who uses really cool experiments to tell an amazing story. That's right. You guys are getting good at this. Today's story is called Dragons, Return of the Ice Sorceress. Let's get started. A long time ago, there was a kingdom. In this kingdom, there was a castle. In this castle, there were two kids. Their names were Henry and Beth. Henry and Beth, however, were not supposed to be in the castle. But one of their favorite things to do was to sneak into places where they shouldn't be. Suddenly, they heard voices. Someone was coming. They started to run. They ran down the hall and wham! Crashed into someone. They looked up thinking that it might be the castle guard, but they were wrong. It wasn't the castle guard at all. It was the last person they wanted to run into. Freeze! What are you doing in my castle? You two are in big trouble. Now come with me. Before the king could grab them, Henry and Beth ran, pushing past the king, ran down another long hall, and ran outside. Woo! That was a close call. Henry and Beth started running back to the village. They were almost home when suddenly, look out! They dove to the ground just in time as something flew through the air right over their heads and disappeared into the forest.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute! In the story, Henry and Beth saw something flying above their heads. Would you like to see what it looked like? Right here, I have a cooler. Inside this cooler, I have... Whoa! Woo! Something cold. It's so cold, I have to wear these gloves in order to touch it. In this cooler, I have... dry ice. Now, is dry ice hot or cold? It's cold. It's so cold, it's 109 degrees below zero. And that's why I have to wear these gloves in order to touch it. Everyone, stick out your hand. Close your eyes. Imagine you're holding an ice cube. What starts happening to that ice cube? It's melting. That's right. That means it's turning from a solid into a liquid. Okay, everyone, open your eyes. Does dry ice melt?
No.
Does it turn wet like an ice cube?
No.
That's why it's called dry ice. Now, when you heat up dry ice, it turns from a solid, not into a liquid, but into a gas. Now, what's it called when something turns from a solid into a gas? Evaporation?
No.
No, that's from a liquid to a gas. Is it called condensation?
No.
No, that's from a gas to a liquid. Is it called procrastination? No, I'll tell you what that means tomorrow. When a solid turns into a gas, it's called sublimation. Right here, I have one of my oldest pieces of equipment. It's called a film canister. I'm going to put a piece of dry ice in this film canister, and it will start to sublimate or turn from a solid into a gas. Even though we can't see it, matter is gas. A matter is anything that takes up space. Now, what takes up more space? A solid or a gas? A gas. A gas will expand and take up much of space as it can. Now, when I put the dry ice in the film canister and put the lid on top, what do you think is going to happen? It's time to do our scientific guess, which is also called a hypothesis.
All right, my friends, it is time for us to make a hypothesis. Now, a hypothesis is a scientific guess. Now, we know that dry ice changes from a solid into a gas or a cloud. But what do you think is going to happen when Science Teller Rick takes that piece of dry ice and puts it into the film canister and closes everything up? What do you think is going to happen? I want you to leave your hypothesis or scientific guess in the comments. That way you can share it with me and all of your friends. Now, we know gases like to take up space, but what if there's not enough space inside the film canister for all the gas that we create? What do you think is going to happen? Leave your hypothesis in the comments, that way you can share it with all of your friends. I can't wait to see them. Ooh, this is exciting. What will happen? This one's a tough question, but I think we can get it. Let's see. My friends Ian and Henry say that the lid will pop off and fly through the air. That's really cool. That would be pretty incredible to watch. Ooh, maybe that's what's going to happen. I'm not sure. Now, my friends, In science, it's okay not to know the answer at first. That's why we make a hypothesis. We make our best guess, and then we go back into the lab and we test our hypothesis. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to go back into the lab to see my friend Science Teller Rick and find out what happens when we take that dry ice and close it up inside that film canister. Will it pop and fly through the air? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Here we go.
Okay, all right. Now let's see what happens. Oh, look at that, it's sublimate. Wow. Isn't that awesome? I love it. All right, now I'm gonna put the lid on top. Now, oh my God!
That's incredible.
Wow! That was awesome! Whoa! Whoa! Wow! That was amazing! When we put the lid on top, we trapped the gas inside. The gas kept expanding, trying to find space, which in turn built up pressure inside of the film canister, which made it pop up into the air. And that's what it looked like when Henry and Beth saw something flying over their heads.
They didn't see what flew overhead, but Beth had an idea. Maybe that was the evil Ice Sorceress. But Henry laughed. That's just an old story people tell to scare their kids. She's not real.
Now what would you do? A, would you run home? Or B, would you follow it into the forest?
Come on, let's go see what it was. Henry grabbed Beth by the arm and together they ran towards the forest. Meanwhile, high atop the castle tower, someone was watching them. It's those two pesky kids. They're heading into the forest. I'll stop them. The guard raced down the long hall, jumped onto his horse, and rode to the edge of the forest. Right there, far in the distance, running through the trees, he spotted Henry and Beth. The guard started to chase them. Henry and Beth started to run. They were fast, but the guard's horse was faster. Henry and Beth need our help. Put your hands up and be like the trees in the forest. He got closer and closer. The hoofbeats got louder and louder. He rode alongside them. Just as he reached out, about to grab them, they dove off the path and disappeared from sight. He looked right. Then he looked left. The guards saw something. But it wasn't Henry and Beth. It wasn't a person at all. It was a mysterious white cloud of fog. He felt very cold. Something wasn't right. He turned and rode off in the other direction. It was filling the entire forest. Henry and Beth peeked out from behind the old tree they were hiding behind. The guard was gone.
Wait a minute! In the story, Henry and Beth saw something in the forest. It was a mysterious white cloud of fog. That's right. We're going to do an experiment to show you what that looked like. Do you remember what it's called when a solid turns into a gas? Sublimation. Right here, I have a graduated cylinder filled with water. I'm going to add dry ice to that water. What do you think's going to happen? It's time to make our scientific guess, also called a hypothesis.
All right, my friends. It is time for us to work together and make another hypothesis. What do you think will happen when Science Teller Rick takes that giant chunk of dry ice and puts it into the cylinder filled with the warm water? Now, using what we've learned before, we know that dry ice will change from a solid into a gas or a cloud, like a cloud of fog. If you think we're going to get a cloud of fog from our tube, how big do you think the cloud will be? Do you think it will fill up our tube halfway? Do you think it'll fill it all the way? Do you think it'll go over the top and roll across Rick's science table? What do you think is going to happen? Leave your hypothesis or guess in the comments to share it with me and all your friends. This one's going to be exciting. I wonder, will it happen all at once? Will we just have a big cloud that fills the room? Or will it take time for the fog to creep out of the tube and onto the table? This one's exciting. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, remember, in science, that's a good thing. It's okay if we don't know exactly what's going to happen. That's why we make our hypothesis or our guess. And I want you to share your guess in the comments with all of your friends. This one's going to be, I'm just excited to see what happens. I hope it's a really big cloud that sort of flows over his table. But what happens if the cloud touches your hands or touches your fingers? This is going to be so much fun. My friends, you can leave your hypothesis or your comment in, or your hypothesis in the comments, rather. That way you can share it with all of your friends. Oh, I see some good ones. Some people think there's going to be a really big cloud. So my friends Ian and Henry think it's going to roll over the top of the tube and onto the table. I kind of hope that happens. I think that would be really exciting. All right, now the only way we know for sure is if we test it. So we're going to go back into the lab and test it with my friend Science Teller Rick. Here we go.
All right, it's time to test out our theory. Let's see what happens. When we put the dry ice into water, the water makes the dry ice heat up and sublimate even faster. That allows us to see all the gas, just like a fog or a cloud. That's right. We can actually, pour it in our hands. Look at that. Whoa. We can even pour it in our lab coats. can even pour it on you. And this is what it looked like when Henry and Beth saw the mysterious white fog.
The guard was gone, but that's when they saw it. Right there, the fog. It was coming towards them.
What would you do? Would you A, stay in the foggy forest? Or would you B, warn the king?
Quickly, Henry and Beth ran back towards the castle to warn the king. Henry and Beth ran fast as they could. They saw the castle in the distance. Finally, they made it out of the forest. But they were too late. Right there, standing in front of the castle, they saw her. It was the evil Ice Sorceress. Suddenly, the trumpets blared. The castle gates blew open. And the knights marched out. But nobody could have known what was going to happen next. The evil Ice Sorceress stomped her feet. She clapped her hands. She snapped her fingers. With a wave of the hand and flick of the wrist, she released bubbles of fog that rained down from the sky. When the bubbles popped, they released ice-cold fog that froze the night solid.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute! In the story, the evil Ice Sorceress stomps her feet. She claps her hands and she snaps her fingers. That's right. When she does, she makes bubbles of fog. We're going to do an experiment to show you exactly what that looked like. Right here, I have a flask. In my flask is water. Now we're going to add a chemical to this water. Soap. We're going to add a piece of dry ice to the soapy-filled water. What do you think is going to happen? It's time for our scientific guess, also known as a hypothesis.
All right, it's time for us to work together and make another hypothesis. Rick has a flask filled with soapy water and some dry ice. What do you think will happen when he puts that dry ice into the soapy water? I want you to share your hypothesis, what you think is going to happen, in the comments. That way you can share it with me and all your friends. Now, we know that dry ice will change. It'll change from a solid into a gas or a cloud through the process of sublimation. Now, my friends, if we have the soap inside the water, do you think maybe we'll get something like bubbles? But if we get bubbles, are they going to be little tiny bubbles, or are they going to be big bubbles? Whatever your guess is, whatever your hypothesis is, put it in the comments. That way you can share it with everyone. Oh, there's some good ones. Oh, now that cloud rolled over Rick's tube and onto his table. Maybe the bubbles would do the same thing. Maybe they'll just keep popping up until the entire room is filled with bubbles. That'd be a little silly. but it'd be really cool to watch. This one's an interesting one. My friends, share your hypothesis with me and all of your friends. What do you think is going to happen? Let's see. My friend Henry thinks we're going to get a big bubble. Ooh, imagine a giant bubble of fog that just fills the entire room and then pops. Ooh, and lets that fog go everywhere. That would be incredible. That would be really cool. Oh, so we could get one big bubble, but the reverse of that, we could get a bunch of tiny bubbles. I wonder what's going to happen. Well, remember, in science, it's okay not to know the answer. We make our best guess, our hypothesis, and then we put everything to the test. So we're going to go back to my friend Science Teller Rick to find out what happens. Oh, let's see. Here we go. All right, Rick, take it away.
Okay. All right. Are you ready? Here we go. There's the soap. All right. Now it's time to add the dry ice. Here we go. Whoa! Oh my gosh! Look at that!
There's a bunch of tiny bubbles. That's cool.
You can see the fog inside of the bubbles. The dry ice supplemented. It turned from a solid into a gas. The gas is filling up the soap. And that's why we're getting so many bubbles. Lots and lots of bubbles. This is really cool. When the bubbles pop, you can see the fog inside of them escape. It's really cool. And this is what it looked like when the evil Ice Sorceress made bubbles of fog.
But it wasn't the nights that she wanted. Right there, she found who she was looking for. Slowly, she walked towards the king. She stomped her feet. She clapped her hands. She snapped her fingers. And with a wave of the hand and flick of the wrist, she released a giant bubble of fog. The bubble popped, releasing an ice-cold fog that froze the king solid. Then, ever so slowly, the evil Ice Sorceress turned around and looked out into the distance. With a flash of her icy blue eyes, she caught Henry and Beth watching her. They started to run. They arrived at a sign with two locations: Fiery Mountains or Frozen Swamp.
What would you do? Would you A, run to the Fiery Mountains, or would you B, head to the Frozen Swamp?
Henry and Beth reached the base of the Fiery Mountains. There, it was said, the dragons lived. A dragon was Henry and Beth's only hope to stop the evil Ice Sorceress. They climbed up, up, and up, the narrow rocky path winding their way higher and higher into the mountains. With every step they took, they felt the ground getting warmer beneath their feet. Ow, 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 ow. As they got closer, they saw it was the opening to a cave.
What would you do? Would you A, keep climbing, or B, go into the cave?
Which way would you go, my friends? Put it in the comments and share.
With whatever courage they had left, Henry and Beth stepped inside of the cave. At once they heard a deafening roar. They looked up. They couldn't believe their eyes. They were standing face to face with a dragon.
Two children in my mountain cave. What are you doing here?
Okay, everybody, Henry and Beth needs our help again, okay? On 3, yell, "The evil Ice Sorceress is back," okay? You ready? 1, 2, 3.
The evil Ice Sorceress is back!
Roar! My fire should be able to melt her.
The dragon flew up in the air. Henry and Beth felt the powerful wind in their face and hair.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute! In this story, Henry and Beth flew through the air with the dragon. That's right. While they were flying through the air, they felt how strong the wind was. We're going to do an experiment to show you what that was like. Now, what's all around us that we need to breathe? Air. Now, is air a solid, a liquid, or a gas? That's right. Air is made out of tiny little particles, too small for us to see. But if we can't see it, how do we know it exists? Because we can feel it. We can also see the effects that it has on other objects. Right here, I have a leaf blower. The leaf blower sucks air through this end and shoots it out at 140 miles an hour. Oh my goodness, that was amazing! I wonder if I can find something else in the lab to use it on. Let's try the leaf blower with this toilet paper. What do you think is going to happen? It's time for us to make our scientific guess, also called a hypothesis.
All right, my friends, it's time to make another hypothesis together. What do you think is going to happen when Rick uses that leaf blower on that toilet paper? What do you think is going to happen to the toilet paper? Put your hypothesis or your guess in the comments to share with all of your friends. Now, that air is moving very, very fast, and there's a lot of energy. Maybe it can give some of that energy away to the paper and make it move. Ooh, but do you think the paper is just going to fall on the ground? Or will it fly through the air? Or what else might happen? Leave your hypothesis or your guess in the comments to share with everyone. Now, why Rick has a leaf blower and toilet paper in the laboratory, I'm not sure. but I am sure that this is going to be a pretty cool experiment. Oh, I'm excited to see what happens. And let's see what some of my friends think are going to happen. Let's see who we have. My friends, you are making some really great choices with where our story should go. I see your comments there. Thank you for helping us decide which way our adventure should travel. What's going to happen with that toilet paper? I'm not sure. Should we jump into it and see? All right, my friends, we're going to find out what happens when Rick uses that leaf blower on that toilet paper. If it stays on the ground, if it flies through the air, or if something else might happen. Let's take a look.
All right, now it's time to test out our theory. Fast-moving air has lots of energy. When the energy comes into contact with another object, like the toilet paper, it makes the toilet paper fly through the air. And that's what it looked like when Henry and Beth flew through the air with the dragon.
Flying through the air, the dragon saw the entire kingdom below. The castle was completely frozen in ice. Right there stood the evil Ice Sorceress. She was watching. The dragon landed in front of the castle and put Henry and Beth down.
I'll be right back.
The dragon took a deep breath and released a blast of fire.
Not even fire can melt me.
She stomped her feet. She clapped her hands. She snapped her fingers. And with a wave of the hand and flick of the wrist, she released bubbles of fog that rained down on Henry and Beth. Just when they thought all hope was lost, Henry and Beth heard a sound. The dragon spread its wings wide apart and covered Henry and Beth like a giant umbrella. The bubbles popped, releasing their ice-cold fog that froze the dragon solid. Then the evil Ice Sorceress rose up into the air and started flying towards them.
What would you do? Would you A, face the evil sorceress? Or would you B, find a place to hide?
Henry and Beth started to run. Henry and Beth saw an open window in the castle. They jumped inside. Down, down, down to the coal castle cellar. Everything in the cellar was completely frozen in ice, except for one thing: an old wooden barrel.
They opened the barrel. It was filled with salt. As they climbed inside the barrel, some salt spilled out onto the ground, and it started to melt the ice. Just then, someone kicked the door in.
I can see you come out of that barrel.
She stomped her feet. She clapped her hands. She snapped her fingers. The evil Ice Sorceress started to wave her hand.
But before the evil Ice Sorceress could flick her wrist, Henry and Beth had an idea. They reached their hands inside of the barrel, grabbed a handful of salt, and on 3, 1, 2, 3, they threw it at her.
All at once, the salt began to work.
The evil Ice Sorceress broke out in a cold sweat and she watched as the salt melt through her icy skin. With one final shriek, the evil Ice Sorceress exploded into millions of tiny water droplets that fell like rain. And just like that, the evil Ice Sorceress was gone. This time, for good.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute! In this story, Henry and Beth melted the evil Ice Sorceress with salt. She exploded into millions of ice droplets. We're going to do an experiment to show you what that looked like. Okay, everyone, do like this. Okay, do it again. We breathe out CO2, or carbon dioxide. That's the same thing that dry ice is made out of. Dry ice is just the solid form of carbon dioxide. Inside this cartridge is carbon dioxide gas. When we open up this end, carbon dioxide escapes very, very fast. I'm going to attach it to this tube. And what's inside of this tube? Nothing right now. We're going to put water inside of the tube. We're going to pull this lever and release the carbon dioxide gas. Now, what do you think is going to happen? It's time for our scientific guess, also called a hypothesis.
All right, my friends, it is time for us to make another hypothesis. What do you think will happen when Rick releases all of that CO2 gas into the tube filled with water? What do you think is going to happen with that water? Could it freeze or turn into a gas? Could it evaporate? Or maybe it will leave the tube and fall down like rain. Whatever your hypothesis is, I want you to put it in the comments. That way you can share it with me and all your friends. Ooh, this is a tricky one, but I know you've got it. You all have been doing a great job during this show, thinking and coming up with great hypotheses. I want to see what your hypothesis is for this experiment. What do you think is going to happen with that water? Now, remember, in science, it's okay not to know right away or not to know the right thing. That's what we do as scientists. We take what we know and we make the best guess, and then we put everything to the test. And we look at that and we can observe it and change our experiment if we need to find something different or new. Oh, this one's going to be exciting. But wait a minute. If the water leaves the tube, wouldn't science teller Rick get soaking wet? Oh, that might be a little funny to see, but hopefully he has an umbrella. All right, my friends, share your hypotheses in the comments with all of your friends. Ooh. This is your last chance. Lock in what you think is going to happen, because we are about to jump back into the lab to see what happens with science teller Rick. Here we go. All right, Rick, take it away, my friend.
Okay, well, let's see what's gonna happen. Now, let's count down from 10. Are you ready?
Count down, my friends. Here
Let's do it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh! Oops. And that's what it looked like when the evil Ice Sorceress exploded into thousands of little tiny droplets of water.
Henry and Beth got right to work. They dragged the barrel outside the castle lifted it high over their heads, and dumped salt all over the dragon. All they could do now was wait. And wait. And the salt began to melt the ice. The dragon started to move. It flapped its giant wings and flew into the air. Flying over the kingdom, the dragon saw everything still covered in ice. It took a deep breath and released a blast of fire. As the ice melted and the kingdom thawed out, a huge cloud of fog formed over the land.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute! At the end of the story, the dragon took a deep breath and let out a blast of fire. That's right. The fire melted all the ice and left a big cloud of fog. This is an experiment to show you what that looked like. Right here, I have a bucket filled with hot water. Right here, I have dry ice. What do you think is going to happen when I put the dry ice inside of the bucket of hot water? It's time to make our scientific guess, also called a I almost said the word hypothesis. Oh!
This is my favorite part. We have to make one last hypothesis for our story, my friends. Using everything that we've learned, we're going to make this final hypothesis. Now, remember to share your hypothesis in the comments. That way everyone can know. What do you think will happen when Rick takes that cooler filled with dry ice and dumps it into the bucket? Now, up until now, we've only been using really small containers like our beakers and our graduated cylinders to make our fog or our cloud. But what do you think is going to happen when Rick uses that giant bucket? Do you think we'll get a cloud that's twice as big, 3 times as big, 10 times as big? Do you think it's going to fill the entire room? What do you think is going to happen when he dumps all of that dry ice into our bucket? Let me know, and let all your friends know by sharing it in the comments. Now, after we go back to Rick in the lab, we'll hear the conclusion or the end of our story. But after that, don't go anywhere, because I want to teach you a very special science experiment that you can do at home that uses things that you already have in your kitchen. That way you can do science with your parent, your adults, or your grown-ups. All right, my friends, for the Warren County Public Library, we are ready to have some fun. We're going to hear the conclusion of our story and then learn some really cool science we can do at home. But first, I have to go back to my friend Rick in the lab to see what happens when he takes that cooler filled with dry ice and dumps it into the bucket. Let's go. Rick, let's have it. Let's see it happen, bud. Henry and Ian think it's
Wow!
Let's see if it does.
Okay, are you guys ready? I need your help counting down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whoa! The ice is sublimating very fast because it's in hot water.
That looks like it'll fill the room. Oh.
Oh, this is awesome. Whoa, 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 whoa. This is super cool. It's sublimating at such a high rate. And that's exactly what it looked like when the kingdom started to thaw out again.
The dragon waved goodbye to Henry and Beth and headed back to her home in the mountains. Everything returned to normal.
Suddenly, someone called for Henry and Beth. It was the king. Then they remembered that that they were in trouble for sneaking around the castle. The king called for them again. This time, there was nowhere to hide.
Henry, Beth, I've been looking everywhere for you. Because of what you did, our kingdom is safe. All hail Henry and Beth, and your dragon friend too. And from now on, you are allowed to sneak around the castle whenever you'd like.
And that concludes Dragons, Return of the Ice Sorceress. Did you have a good time?
All right, my friends. You can give this video a thumbs up or a heart or say yes in the comments if you had a good time. That is the end of our story, but don't go anywhere because I want to share with you a science experiment that you can do at home. We saw a lot of really cool science in our show, and this is something that you can do. Now, before we do any science experiment at home or at school or at the library or anywhere else, we need something. It starts with a parent, an adult, or a grown up. That's right. Now, your grown up is the person at home that right now looks a little bit tired. You have to find that person because they will help you get everything you need for this experiment. Now, like I said earlier, this experiment uses things that you already have at home. I'll show them to you. The first thing you need is a cup or a bowl. I'm going to use this little plastic container I have here. The next thing you need is a chemical called H2O. And H2O stands for water. Bottled water, tap water, whatever you have. I'm going to use my water bottle right here. Then you're going to need some salt. This is another chemical we have at home, just regular table salt. And because of our Ice Sorceress, for this experiment, we are going to use, of course, ice cubes. I have a bunch of ice cubes in my little thermos here. We'll use those. And the last thing you'll need is a piece of string. Now, the string I'm using today is kitchen twine or baling twine. I have it right here. And it's really special because it's not just one string. It's actually made up of a bunch of tiny pieces of string, all spun together. Now, I don't need a bunch of this. I only need a piece about a foot long. So I'll break off a piece for us to use like that. Now, my friends, I encourage you, if you're going to do this, you'll get your grown up first. It's a lot of fun. All right. Now, the first thing you're going to do is take your bowl, and inside your bowl, you're going to place your ice cubes. I'm going to fill up my bowl about halfway. So my bowl has some ice cubes in it, and now we're going to use water. And we're going to fill up the bowl about halfway as well. That way our ice cubes can swim around a bit. There we go. Make sure you can see. Perfect. So we have our ice cubes and our water. The next thing we need to do is take our string and dip it into the water to get it nice and wet. So we have our string and we have our bowl. I'm going to just dip the string into our bowl of icy water. That way it gets nice and wet, and I'll get rid of all the excess moisture. You just need it to be damp. Okay. Now, you're going to take your string and lay it across the surface of your water and ice, and make sure that that string is touching the ice cubes very carefully. I'm just going to push that down so I can show you. Ooh, this is going to be exciting. Perfect. My string is across the top of my ice cubes, and now we need the last chemical. The chemical we'll need is right here. A little bit of salt, some table salt. I'm just going to sprinkle it on top of the string and on top of the ice cubes. Sprinkle it here, and then I'll show you the bowl. There we go. There we go. So I sprinkled our ice on top of our bowl, on top of our ice cubes, and now we have to wait. But with any science experiment, we have to make a hypothesis, an educated guess. What do you think will happen with our ice cubes, our string, and our salt? Will the ice cubes just fall to the bottom of the bowl? Will the string snap in half? Or will the string stick to the ice cubes? Or will the water freeze? My friends, I want you to put your hypothesis, think about it, and then put it in the comments to share with your friends. Now, my friends, we have that ice just sitting there and the salt sitting on top. But remember in our story, what happened when the ice sorceress had ice thrown on her? She melted. So maybe our ice cubes are melting. Let's take a look. So we have our string, our ice cubes. I'm carefully going to pull up on the string. Let's see what happens. Let's take a look. Whoa. 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 Look at that. Wow. Those ice cubes melted together and they froze onto our string. That is awesome. Oh, look at that. Now, my friends, why does this happen? Well, the reason it happens is because of the salt. You see, the salt helps melt the ice. Like in our story, when Henry and Beth threw the ice on the ice sorceress, she melted. That's what's happening inside of our bowl. When that salt touches that ice, it lowers the freezing point and allows the surface of the ice to melt. And then our string sinks down into our ice cube and everything freezes over top. And then we're able to pull the ice cube and the string out of the little cup. Now that is totally cool, and there's some really cool science, and I hope that's something that you try at home. Now remember, if you try this at home, you can share it with Sciencetellers using the hashtag Sciencetellers right there, SCIENCETELLERS. You can use that hashtag, or you can share it with your library as well. Now, as a reminder, your library has tons of amazing summer reading programs. There's stuff that's virtual here online, and there's a bunch of stuff over on their website. And that website is warrenpl.org/summer. That's warrenpl.org/SUMMER, summer. So if you haven't taken a look at the website, there's a bunch of really great information there. There's stuff about upcoming programs. There's also all sorts of information about your summer reading program. And I hope you're reading tons of amazing books this summer and learning lots. So be sure to take a look at their website and see if there's anything there that you want to be a part of, like you were a part of today's show. Now, my friends, I have a few minutes left. If you have any questions, you can put them into the comments and hopefully I can answer some of your science questions for you, okay? So if you have those, be sure to look out and take a look at our ice cubes again. Let's see. Ooh, they are still all stuck together. You can see, I'll bring it nice and close. You can see little droplets, little ice crystals. Ooh, let me bring it down. Little ice crystals on that string right there. That is awesome. Oh. And my friends, you can do this experiment more than once and you can see how many ice cubes you can lift up. You can even make a little game or competition if you have a brother or a sister, or you can play against one of your grown-ups to see who can get the most ice cubes on their string. But that is a little science experiment that you can do at home with just the stuff that you have inside your kitchen. My friends Ian and Henry say thank you. I thank you for coming to today's show. I really appreciated having you here. You had some really great hypotheses. Thank you for sharing them with everyone. Excellent. All right. This is awesome, my friends. I'm not seeing any questions, but that is a-okay. I hope you had a great time. Again, my name is Conrad from Sciencetellers. I hope you had a great time with our program, our special Sciencetellers show, Return of the Ice Sorceress, sponsored by all of our friends here, the Warren County Public Library. Thank you for watching. Have fun, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and be sure to take a look not only on this Facebook page, but also the Warren County Public Library website for all the amazing programs they have scheduled this summer. Thank you all so much for watching and have a wonderful rest of the day. Goodbye, everyone.